Chris Kelsey here with
Matt Howell.
It's double feature week here on the first run, and Matt and I are going to discuss Spider-Man Far From Home as well as R.A. Aster's follow-up to Hereditary, Midsommar. First up, Spidey and friends travel to Europe as a web slinger gets drafted by S.H.I.E.L.D. to assist in the prevention, Matt, of a global cataclysm with the arrival of the elementals. Maybe. And then Aster follows up Hereditary. And Matt, I don't know if this sequel can possibly live up to the hype, but we're going to talk about it. There's a relentless rundown of all the big releases coming up on Blu-ray and DVD, featuring your straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. And then finally, we're going to wrap up the show with our 5 best films of 2019 so far. And I am depressed. So let's start everything off with a clip from Spider-Man Far From Home.
This is Mr. Beck.
But you handled yourself well out there today. Saw what you did with the tower.
Thanks.
They were born in stable orbits within black holes, creatures formed from the primary elements: air, water, fire, earth. The science division had a technical name. We just called them elementals.
Versions of them exist across our mythologies.
Turns out the myths are real.
Like Thor. Thor was a myth, and now I study him in my physics class.
These myths are threats.
They first materialized on my Earth many years ago. I was part of the last battalion left trying to stop them. All we did was delay the inevitable.
The elementals are here now, attacking the same coordinates. Our satellites confirm it.
We have one mission. Kill it. You're coming with us.
Mr. Fury, this all seems like big time. You know, huge superhero kind of stuff. And, I mean, I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, sir.
Bitch, please. You've been to space.
So, Matt, the coda to the first chapter of the MCU has arrived. How does Spider-Man Far From Home work as an epilogue and then as a standalone Spider-Man film?
I think it accomplishes both pretty effectively. I think it kind of puts a bow on everything that came before it. You know, they do a clever job of kind of explaining tongue-in-cheek way of kind of the consequences of the snap and the blip, and as they call it. But I mean, and as a Spider-Man film, it stands really. It's you know a excellent example. It's really everything that Spider-Man is for the most part. So, you know, I think in both areas, it really really accomplishes what it set out to do.
So why don't you tell the fine folks here listening while they're on their recumbent bicycles, what kind of is this film all about? What is the general plot? And we didn't game this out, so I think we should avoid spoilers, but then we can maybe do a timestamp and then talk about them, you know, halfway through here. So basically, there's some elementals show up, right? And Spider-Man's got to stop them. And what else is going on in this thing?
Yeah, so it's basically post-snap. Everybody comes back. Everybody who was snapped conveniently was people that we all knew from the original film. And they're all the same age as when they disappeared versus everybody else who's 5 years older. Spider-Man is post, you know, Endgame and Infinity War. He just wants some time off. He decides that he's going to go on a school trip to Europe with his friends, see if he can get a little closer to MJ, the girl he's interested in. And of course, you know, great power and its responsibility rears its ugly head in the form of elementals and the mysterious Mysterio, who could be a force for good.
Right. So first, I just want to say, Matt, I was right. Though we'll save that for the spoiler section, which I'm very excited about. I walked out of this thinking, all right, well, that was a Spider-Man movie. It was fun. It all works and clicks together rather nicely. I think Gyllenhaal is a good character as Mysterio.
Yeah.
I thought there were some really great effects, particularly that first confrontation that our hero and our villain meet with the kind of, you know, the thing that happens, which I guess we can talk about later. But in the end, it felt very light and forgettable to me. I think I'm going to give up on the Marvel films being artistically relevant. I think I'm no longer going to look for more in this series. There's some statement, some greater message. Because I feel like even when it tries to, like in this film, where it focuses on the nature of truth, which is, I think, especially relevant in this time, it suffocates it with its cookie cutter Marvel-ness. So I really enjoyed this. It was fun, but I really think that they are a victim of their own success at this point.
I don't know if that's fair. I mean, I think, and I know we don't have a lot of conflict on the show, but I, Chris, I love you, but I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say something that's been weighing on me at this thing. I get this sense that you're kind of buying into the critic thing where, oh, I'm too good for this now. It's not artistically merited, or, I mean, I think you're looking for something just because it's so big and has such a big cultural impact. You want it to have more, but none of them ever really have. I mean, and I think it's an unfair expectation, and it's sapping some of your enjoyment and kind of appreciating it for what is actually there.
Well, so we both know that I'm the more pretentious of the two of us, right?
Which is amazing. If anybody knows both of us,
I make no bones about that. I have no problem with that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of the people like when they say it's just entertainment, man. Just turn off your brain and have fun. Because that a lot of times is applied to stuff like Independence Day, like your really kind of crap movies.
Right.
So, and I'm going to give this a good score. I mean, I said I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Everything you're looking for in a Marvel Spider-Man movie, this nails. And there are some particularly fantastic moments in this thing. I don't know. We're what, 24 movies in?
Yeah.
And it's like, let me give you an example. Even with something like the James Bond franchise, they try and do different things with it. When Deacon shot Skyfall, that thing is gorgeous. I mean, it is a beautifully shot film. You don't have anything like that in these things. They stick to a template, and I'm just gonna and I think in a way, Matt, this is a victory. Then I guess, for lack of better terms, is a victory for you, because I'm just gonna let that go. I'm gonna let it go. I'm not gonna bother, trying to see something different or new, or this is just, you know what? I'm going to Disney and I'm going on the Spider-Man roller coaster, and I'm paying my $50 or, $10, $12, whatever it's going to be. And at the end of that 2 hour, 10-minute ride, I'm going to be like, man, that was fun. And that's going to be fun. And I think that's good. I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I'm giving you what you're asking me.
Yeah, but it feels like it's begrudging. I mean, I will say this. I mean, granted, there's the much talk about Marvel style, and I think there are directors in it who are certainly better at it than others.
Gunn.
Yes,
Gunn,
the Russos. So yeah, there is a box. And I think, though, to an extent, that is in their favor, because look at, again, I don't mean to pick on them, but look at DC, right?
Right.
They tried to give, the director a lot of control, and they picked the wrong director. And that vision kind of, and that's right. But I guess the point is, if Marvel did that, I mean, granted, it's a cash cow. They don't want to sink this whole ship that they've been working so hard on by giving a control to a lot of director and him just blowing it out of the water.
I get that, but I mean, that's another whole conversation about commercialism and capitalism, particularly when it comes to film, and when you have a studio like Disney that now owns 40% of all the properties out there. Like they own so many franchises now, and all, for the most part, I mean, they say they're not going to do anything to Deadpool. They own the Alien franchise now too, right? So all that stuff, they will maintain them at their current I don't know, what do you say, status quo, whatever.
Sure.
But this group of films, then that's what it is. It's just a sidetrack. They're homogenous, fun, entertaining superhero movies. That's fine.
And you know what? Honestly,
That's fine.
Guys, Chris saying that's fine because he's given up. But let's think about think about the major franchises, right? Look at Star Wars. That thing has been up and down. And don't get me wrong, I love the Star Wars universe, but look at the god awfulness of those prequels. Those things are a disaster, and I don't care what anybody says. So I will take the trade-off of them producing faithful, enjoyable, and people will argue with me, but I think different. Each one, even though it may have similar palette and it may look somewhat the same, it all still feels like it's its own thing. For the most part, you can tell, you're in a Thor movie or a Captain America movie or a Spider-Man movie, or certainly like a Black Panther movie. You can tell the difference between those things. And it's not as cookie cutter and cut and dry. I mean, the differences are there. And like this, honestly, yes, it has a lot of superhero action, but this film, more than many of the other Marvel films, tells a smaller story, and it's successful in a lot of what it tries to do, like just the relationship aspects of it and the way it makes it feel like they are actually kids, and it does that successfully. And I can say that the people who I've watched this with, who are not normally into these films, have come out saying, this is by far my favorite of the Marvel films. I really enjoyed that. And that's not something you get very often. I mean, maybe we're jaded because we've seen all 24 of them, but I think, there's a human element to Spider-Man, which I think they nail in this. And yeah, there's the action scenes, and yeah, those are fun, but there's that kind of, other side of it, that kind of struggle side of it that is just different. That's just Spider-Man, and people connect to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I'm inclined to agree with it. Do you have anything else you want to say before we get into the meat and potatoes of this thing?
So are we gonna give it a grade before we get into the meat and potatoes?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. I gave it a B+.
Yeah, I gave it an A-, but okay. I'm an unabashed Spider-Man fanboy. I can't help myself. So yeah,
so we're not that far off.
No, we're not.
Okay. So let's go ahead then, Matt, and let's do the spoiler talk on this thing. So one of the things I tweeted, because you were really excited when the first trailer came out. And again, this is spoiler discussion time. I'm going to timestamp it. You'll see it in the notes of the show, though I'm sure nobody ever reads them, and I spend so much time working on them, but fine, whatever. This is your warning. This is spoiler talk. If you haven't seen Far From Home yet, do not listen to this, and you can jump ahead to the Blu-ray DVD picks, which will probably be in about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
When they did the first trailer and Mysterio shows up, and he basically talks about being from an alternate universe, right? An alternate dimension. So that the multiverse exists. And I tweeted out to the world and said, why are we buying this when Mysterio's whole thing is that he's a con man and a liar? I'll bet you that that's all BS. And that's what happens, right? The whole film basically is Mysterio and a bunch of people who used to work for Stark Industries after he dies heroically. He passes on this technology to Peter, which gains him basically control of the most powerful AI on the planet, which controls satellite. It can basically do anything, right? So Mysterio and his gang of spurned Stark employees hatch this plot where they use illusions and all this stuff to trick people into thinking these elementals are attacking to force or con Peter into giving him the AI,
right?
So they can become the greatest superhero ever and rule the world, or just fame and fortune, I guess.
I think just fame and fortune, just money. I think it's really more mundane ambitions.
So that's it. So what do you think, Matt? Are you disappointed with the lack of a multiverse, or can we really not definitively say that because of the Sam Jackson coda at the end of the film, which I'm still not quite sure about. So I'm hoping you can maybe speak to that if you know what that's all about.
Sure. So I'm not really disappointed. I thought it was a fun thing, and I did like the little nods about how they talked about Earth 616, which is the name of the main Marvel universe in the comics. So
And you see the license plates on the
Yeah.
cars. They all reference different, like the first episode of Hydra Man shows up. Another one was Molten Man and all this. Basically, the people who show up,
sure.
they get a nod to their issue.
Yeah. Okay. I did not see that. Well,
Okay.
look at you. Yeah, I mean, I think when you tweeted that, I think I said that maybe it would be like an alternate universe, Mysterio, and he was basically conning them into thinking he had powers and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I wasn't necessarily surprised. I wasn't particularly disappointed either. But it was a cool little nod. It was kind of an allusion to the best superhero film in a long time in the Spider-Verse. And, I think people are just figuring out, just waiting to see how they're going to start pulling in Gwen and Miles and stuff like that. So I think they were just kind of excited to see that as a possibility. But we have to wait longer.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that doesn't really work in the film for me is the attempt of levity with Martin Starr and Smooth. That seemed that some of the other humor stuff worked, but that just kind of fell flat for me every time. I appreciate, like you said, about the fact that this is impacting children. And I think one of the more interesting turns with Tom Holland's Peter Parker is that he's overwhelmed and he wants to just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man after everything that he's encountered. He wants to get back, right, and just to be that. And that is what happens, which I think is a nice turn for the film. But I don't know. I mean, that's basically it for me. Like I said, I love Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I think it was very charming and enigmatic. I think it worked really well. I love the costume design.
Mm-hmm.
I love the first fight that the two of them had with the special effects and all the illusions, that he encounters, and he has to then rely on the Peter Tingle. I guess we're not calling it Spider Sense quite yet.
It'll be, I thought that was funny, the Peter Tingle, yeah.
So, but So do you have any thoughts? Why is Sam Jackson hurtling through space with the Skrulls?
Yeah, I don't know. Was he hurtling through space or was he like in orbit around Earth? I thought that when I couldn't tell.
I thought they were traveling.
Maybe were they traveling?
I thought so.
Okay.
Maybe
yeah, so maybe we're gonna get Secret Wars, or maybe we're gonna get some kind of
well, you can't. You're not going to get Secret Invasion, right? Because the Skrulls are good guys now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think there's some plan using the Skrulls, and the Krees are unabashed bad guys, kind of pulling those two elements in together. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but sky's the limit. We don't even really know most of what the new stuff that's going to come out is, so we can't even hazard a guess at this point. Although,
well, let me just say, according to Wikipedia, Fury and Colby Summers, what's her character's name? Agent Hill.
Yeah.
Are actually Skrulls. They're Talos and Soren from Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. Fury, according to Wikipedia, is commanding a Skrull spaceship.
Okay.
The way he is moving.
Okay.
And what about we got the return of J.K. Simmons?
I was so happy about that. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. I'm glad they did it because he was an absolutely perfect J. Jonah Jameson.
One of the best things about that's Raimi's Spider-Man run.
Yeah.
Is him as J. Jonah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see where they go with that. Although it's interesting that Peter Parker is outed as Spider-Man. So I'm wondering how they're going to play that, because in the few times that's happened in the comics, no good comes of it. Like, a lot of bad stuff happens. So
yeah, they tend to always just rewrite it, right? Or they reboot, or they do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, didn't one time Doctor Strange kind of erase the last 8 years of continuity? Like, he brought back Aunt May or something like that. And
yeah, it's been super convoluted. I mean, there was one where he made a deal with Mephisto to
is that who it was?
Yeah, bring back everything and change the whole timeline and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're just gonna. I'm interested to see if they're either going to really dive deep into that, or they're gonna do this hand wavy kind of thing, that can't possibly be me kind of thing, and everybody believes them. So we'll see.
So Feige has stated that the next villain, they have a villain lined up for the next film, and it's one who has not yet appeared in the films. And I think there's only one glaringly obvious villain. Who do you think it is?
It hasn't appeared in the films.
Yeah.
Venom. Well, no, I guess see, that's tough. Like I don't know. I mean, my gut would say like Kingpin or something, but he's been in Daredevil. Yeah. Huh?
It's going to be Kraven.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody else. They'll probably do the Last Hunt, and I don't know if they do the Last Hunt because that wouldn't really make sense. But they'll maybe adapt that in some capacity.
Yeah, maybe J. Jonah somebody hires Kraven to hunt him down or something like that. So who knows?
I think it's and maybe like Chameleon will show up because he was like the first Spider-Man villain. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's in the Spider Slayers. If you go down the J. Jonah hiring folks thing.
Yeah,
but I think Kraven's your villain. I think he's the last big one I think who hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah. And can I just point out I did finally see Venom. That Woody Harrelson as Carnage is absolutely ridiculous.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Yes.
Any your thoughts on Far From Home?
No, that's it. Yeah, I think it's like I said in the first part of the review. I really enjoyed it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you'll really like it. And you know what? If there's people in your life who are not really into the Marvel or superhero films, take them to this one. They may actually like it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's tangentially far away enough from Avengers Endgame, though there's a lot of stuff it alludes to. I still think it works as a standalone film where you don't have to, I think, seen Endgame or any of the other films to really enjoy it. I think it still works all on its own, which was something I was slightly concerned about. And one last thing, Matt. So I went to go see this I went to see Midsommar and this in the same night, and the timing of it was a nightmare. So I had to, instead of going to Dolby, I had to settle for IMAX.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to them. I see Midsommar first, and so I think I'm gonna get a palate cleanser. So let me end the night with Far From Home, which starts at 9:30. Now, of course, if you go to AMC and I think most theaters, they have a 20 to 25 minute of trailers. Right, and then promotion for the theater itself. So I'm talking to Mrs. First Run. She's getting ready to go to bed. It's 9:40. And they go, all right, I got about 10 minutes. I walk in at 9:48, 9:50 maybe, and the movie's been playing for 8 minutes.
Yeah. I've noticed that about when they run their later shows. Like I went to go see Solo with my dad and we were running a little bit behind, but I was like, oh, don't worry about it. There'll be like 15, 20 minutes of previews and we come in, the thing's been on for 10 minutes. So like, you never know what you're going to get.
Yep. So I actually changed it to the 10 o'clock screening at a different theater in the multiplex.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't want to miss the first 8 minutes of the damn movie.
That's true. Yes. That's a lot of good stuff happens in those 8 minutes,
And I got home like at 1.
And you're still suffering for it.
That's it. If you had a chance to see Spider-Man Far From Home, currently in theaters, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, July 16th. Well, did you know it's the 10th anniversary of this film?
My name is Lieutenant Aldo Rain, and I'm putting together a special team, and I need me 8 soldiers. 8 Jewish American soldiers. Now, y'all might have heard rumors about the Armada happening soon. Well, we'll be leaving a little earlier. We're going to be dropped into France dressed as civilians. Once we're in enemy territory, as a bushwhacking guerrilla army, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only. Killing Nazis.
Matt, that is the 10th anniversary edition of Inglourious Bastards.
Wow.
It includes a new exclusive 36-page booklet, 4 postcards, 8 character cards, and 8 playing cards. Done 52. Oh no, just 8. Includes some deleted and extended scenes as well. Here's what I don't get. No 4K release. Why not
really
bust it out? In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, is there a 4K Tarantino? I don't think there is. What was his? No, there isn't. Because last one was Hateful Eight, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that thing's begging for like a 4K release. Maybe you include the Netflix version of it. That would be cool. I would rebuy it if it had that. I don't think I would rebuy it without it. Anyway, that's coming up. That's actually coming out the 15th, the day before. Here are the big releases. Shazam. If you get it from Best Buy, I got to admit, this is a kick-ass looking steel book. And then Target has a digibook, and there's a exclusive motion comic, 5 featurettes, some deleted scenes, and a gag reel. Elle Fanning's Teen Spirit, where she plays Violet, a shy teenager who dreams of escaping her small town and pursuing her passion to sing. This actually played at the Gasparilla International Film Festival. I did not get a chance to catch up with it, though. Fast Color. A woman is forced to go on the run when her superhuman abilities are discovered. Years after having abandoned her family, the only place she has left to hide is home. Stars Gugu Mbatha Raw and David Strathern. The DC Universe series Titans is being released on Blu-ray. Includes 15 special features on the making of the film. I don't know. I saw a couple episodes, Matt, and it was just so dark. And then who's there reading the other day? They were tweeting about how they wanted to do with the launch of the Joker movie coming up, right? They said, what about doing like a DC Black? So then you do all these kind of hyper realistic dark versions of DC movies. That would sure make a lot of money. And I'm like, wait, what? Did we not pay attention?
Did we not learn our lesson last time?
New to Blu-ray, Clute from Criterion. This is the Donald Sutherland, Jane Fonda films, a brand new 4K restoration, supervised by the camera operator. A new conversation between Jane Fonda and Elena Douglas. A new documentary about Clute and director Alan J. Pakula, and a whole bunch of new stuff. Criterion is also giving us The Baker's Wife, written and directed by Marcel Pagnol. Shortly after a middle-aged baker, Amabel, settles down in a new village in Provence. His young and beautiful wife, Ariel, runs away with an attractive young shepherd. It's a brand new 4K restoration of the film. Selected scene audio commentary featuring the director, scholar Brett Bowles. An introduction by Pagnol himself from 1967 and more. Scream Factory, is releasing The Leopard Man, the Val Lewton-produced film. When a leopard escapes during a publicity stunt, it triggers a series of murders. They're also releasing the crazy cat horror film Strays, starring Timothy Busfield and Kathleen Quinlan. Arrow is giving us the chill factor. It's The Exorcist meets the Winter Olympics, and this tale of the demonic possession and snowbound slashing from director Christopher Webster, who produced Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2. For a group of young couples, Matt, a snowmobiling trip turns into a waking nightmare when one of their number is thrown from their vehicle and knocked unconscious. Seeking refuge in a nearby abandoned summer camp, the group find themselves holed up in a cabin full of bizarre and ominous religious artifacts. As night falls, the discovery of a Ouija board amidst the dusty relics awakens a terrifying evil. How many times, people? How many times? Hello again. I know. Hello again. The film starring Shelley Long is being released on Blu-ray for the first time. Twilight Time is releasing 6 films all at once with limited 3,000 pressings. Hold Back the Dawn, The Psychic, The Chairman, 10th North Frederick, Behold a Pale Horse, and The President's Lady. Getting its 4K release is Duncan Jones's Moon, a fantastic science fiction film. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. I think it actually might be on Netflix right now. I know it was for a while.
Yeah, who knows?
And then your straight to DVD pick of the week is Mac Daddy's Vegas Adventure. After Mac Daddy decides to quit being an international ladies' man, 2 of his best pupils, Diego and Damon, decide to take over. They take their game to Vegas to become international ladies' men, but Damon ends up hitting on the wrong woman, and both Damon and Diego get involved with the most dangerous Italian mafia in Vegas. Now Mac Daddy must come back into the game and help save their lives. What should we be streaming this week, Matt?
So advance of the 3rd release or film that's being in this franchise that's being filmed right now, I'm going to recommend Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, a slice of 80s comedy time travel adventure starring Keanu Reeves and Alex Winters. We're basically 2 slacker guys. George Carlin comes back to the future, says that they have to pass high school because they end up being the leaders of the free world and the saviors of humanity. And they basically go back in time and get actual historical figures for their history report. It's pretty fun. It's very cheesy, but it is pretty fun.
Man, I haven't watched those in a long time. I'm kind of terrified to revisit them. Did you watch it recently?
Yeah, so Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, if you go into it with the idea of an 80s movie, it's actually still a lot of fun. I haven't watched Bogus Journey since I saw it probably 20 years ago.
All right. Well, that's a good pick. I got to catch up with that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of Bill and Ted's and time travel and adventuring, why don't we head over, Matt, to Sweden, and why don't we just suffer for a while?
What time is it?
9 p.m.
That can't be right. The sky is blue.
This is what 9 p.m. is like here.
Welcome and happy midsummer.
Unbelievable.
Let our feast commence.
It's like they're trying to make it gross.
What are they playing?
Skin the fool.
Skin the fool.
So we're just going to ignore the bed.
It's a bear.
So I got burned today, Matt. The bear. So A24.
Yeah.
We released these tiny little things where it's a bear in a wooden cage, handcrafted. And, or at least a little flower thing around the bear's neck is hand stained for sure, the whole thing. Anyway, they went on sale today for noon. They only made 75 of them. $35. I was there at noon, sold out immediately.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
They announced that they were going to another larger order at 6. They canceled that.
Oh.
And I'm on their Twitter feed. It turns out, just like you said, some bots came up and bought them all up.
Yep.
So they canceled it until they figured out what they're going to do. And they actually, one guy tweeted at them and said, "Hey, why'd you guys cancel my order?" And they basically said, like, because we don't sell to bots.
Yeah.
So they were able to see that that's what that kid did.
Yeah.
Canceled his order.
Right.
So they're trying to figure out what to do about selling them. So hopefully there'll be a new announcement. I'll be able to get one of these damn things. As I actually called it under my breath during the film, Chekhov's bear. So Midsommar is Ari Aster's latest film. He wrote, directed Hereditary, which Matt and I both really, really enjoyed a couple of years ago. Toni Collette easily should have been nominated for an Oscar for that performance. A just heart-wrenching tale of grief and horror. So what do we do? Well, why don't we revisit that subject? And this time, let's go to Sweden. Florence Pugh, who we saw recently, who's had a star turn in Macbeth, which I am dying to see, and then we saw her in Fighting with My Family, which is the that wrestling film by Stephen Merchant about Paige. Well, she's back as Danny Ardor. Danny is dealing with a horrific family incident, and she follows along with her boyfriend and a couple of his friends to Sweden, where one of their pals is going home to partake in his commune he was raised in this festival mat that they have once every 80 years to honor the gods and the lands and the being fruitful and all that fun stuff. And things go horribly, horribly wrong. Matt, my question to you, are we in a new golden age of art house horror?
Yeah, maybe, man, because honestly, the most effective horror films that we've seen probably over the last, 3, 4, 5 years have been the art house horror films. And those are the ones we're still talking about. We're not talking generally, with the exception of a Get Out here and there, of the big horror releases. So
I would consider maybe even us in that vein, maybe not quite, maybe a little lower tier, but Hereditary, Suspiria, and I would throw in Aronofsky's Mother.
Yeah. But I mean, if you want to go back further, The Witch and
sure. Yep. That's a good one too.
It Follows and maybe even Neon Demon. That's a weird film. But I could see that.
I think that counts as art house horror. I agree with Tara.
Yeah. So yeah, we may be in a bit of a renaissance here. We'll look back and say this is our French New Wave, and we didn't even know it was happening until it was too late. And didn't appreciate what we had.
That's it. So I'm not even sure where to begin with this thing. Why don't you start us off? What are your thoughts on Midsommar?
Okay, so I really enjoyed this. I at the risk of having to turn in my credit card and and getting kicked off this show. I think I actually like this better than Hereditary. And I don't know if it's a better film or the performances are better, but I had a more enjoyable time watching it. It's not anywhere near as heavy. And that's weird because there are some really heavy moments in this, but
yeah,
Hereditary is like a millstone, is like a just grinding you in the kind of misery of all this stuff. Whereas this is more straightforward in the sense that it's something's off and you're just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And, it's kind of more of a classic horror scenario.
Yeah. It's, first off, I think Aster really solidifies himself as a master storyteller, particularly I know I'm beating this phrase to death, but art house horror.
Mm-hmm.
This is not just a Grimm's fairy tale about the consequences of bad relationships, though. From what I understand, he was inspired to make this film after a breakup.
Mm-hmm.
See, the issue we have is that Danny is with a less than, I don't know if committed is the right word, but invested partner, right? He has been trying to break up with her for about a year now. And when he's close to doing it, then this horrible incident with her family happens. Her grief, listen, let me tell you something. Her grief in this thing and how she expresses it is, I think, just as effective and as powerful as Toni Collette was in Hereditary. I mean, she is heartbreaking, and it's just, you feel and you ache with her. And I think that's one of the key things a lot of people are talking about with this film is, if you go to see this with your partner, make sure you guys are strong, or you'll start looking at each other and wondering. For me, I felt this film was more about grief, longing, and loss and family. And I think one of the great triumphs of this thing too is as basically the whole thing takes place during day. It's all daylight. I shouldn't say day, but it's bright out. And I think that makes everything here all the more sinister, right, Matt? Because there's no relief. There's no escape. Because usually with the darkness, you're waiting for the sun to come up. Well,
Right.
Unfortunately, all the horror is happening then. And as always, too, Aster does great work with ambient sound in this thing. So they always say it's more terrifying what you don't see happening, right? When it happens off screen. Well, there's these ambient moans and sobs and distant screeches every now and then that kind of just pop up, right? And it's just, it's not jarring or out of place, right?
No.
It's more like, oh, that's right. Yeah, something's going on here.
Yeah.
But just there's maybe 1-2 jump scares, if that, in this thing. It's just more an unrelenting, suffocating feeling of dread.
Yeah.
And it's topped with Pugh's vivid and raw performance. Everybody in the cast is universally strong, but she is fantastic in this. So yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't know if I would say it's better than Hereditary. In fact, I just pulled up the report card, and my grade on this is a one notch below what I gave Hereditary.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the ritual stuff with this commune could have been trimmed back a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Though it never felt overly, it didn't feel long to me. This is like 2 hours and 20 some odd minutes long.
Yeah.
But it is relentless, and oddly too, it's sometimes very funny.
Yeah, it is. And I think honestly, as much as I enjoyed Hereditary, I've not watched it since, just because I haven't really been in the mood to kind of subject myself to that.
Same. There's been like 2 or 3 times when I'm like, I'm going to watch Hereditary tonight. And then it gets to that point and I'm like, you know what? I'm not up for it.
Yeah. But I could see myself watching this more often. Like, again, I think Hereditary is a better film, like it's as an accomplishment, but I just think this is a more fun film. And that's a weird thing to say, but it is.
Fun is a weird word for that.
Yeah, it's a much different vibe. And it's more of a vibe I think someone who's a horror aficionado will be used to.
So I have a question for you. Do you felt that the cult was manipulating Danny and preying on her grief and loneliness, kind of steering her to the film's conclusion? Or do you think everything that happened kind of happened organically?
I think they were not necessarily steering her. I think they saw that she was kind of taken in by her grief and kind of being accepted as a part of it because she was looking for something. Whereas kind of the way it all played out, they had, I guess I don't want to ruin too much, but I mean, they had what they needed, from the numbers that they had. But I don't think it was necessarily, I don't think they were trying to do it. I think they were I don't think initially they were trying to, but I think they eventually were like trying to steer her into kind of accepting this lifestyle.
Fair enough. I do think Pell, who is the Swedish friend there, who kind of instigates her. I think he slyly and subtly pushes her to make sure that they join them on the trip.
Sure.
That's kind of what I took out of that whole thing too.
And he's appropriately creepy. He's just like the nicest, soft-spoken guy who's going to murder you, kind of thing. So it's going to lead you to your doom. So it's crazy. And poor Carl Rayner, man. I mean, he's a very unsympathetic character, but I understand him for the part. I mean, he's not like a bad guy. He's just kind of a jerk. But yeah, man, that's hard to believe that was the guy from Sing Street who was, somebody you root for. Huh?
Oh, you mean Jack Rayner?
Jack Rayner, excuse me. Yes. And
I didn't even put that together that was him. He was the older brother in Sing Street.
Yeah, he was the older brother from Sing Street, yeah.
Oh my, that's the same guy. Holy cow.
Yeah. Unrecognizable. I was like, why do I know this guy? And I had to look it up afterward. And I was like, oh yeah, that guy.
That's crazy. I had no idea that was him. That's so funny. Man, if you haven't seen Sing Street 2, by the way, the diametric polar opposite of this film. But it is fantastic. Yeah, wow. I had no idea.
And you know what? I didn't realize I'm looking at his IMDb page right now. He's in Macbeth as well.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
Yeah.
And Transformers Age of Extinction. So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Canceled. All right. Any final thoughts on Midsommar? I want to say too, man, listen, I don't know if this is for everybody.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it for everybody, but if you're a fan of something like the classic film Wicker Man, then I think you will love this terrifying cousin to that film.
I agree. I think if it's I think if this is already in your wheelhouse, and I think you should give it a shot.
I'm giving Midsommar an A-.
You know what? So am I. I'm giving it an A- as well.
Well, you gave all right. So just to check in, Hereditary, I gave an A. You gave it an A-.
Yep.
So there you are.
There you go. I mean, I don't think it's an A film. I would say maybe A-1, A-2 kind of thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Midsommar is playing in most theaters right now. If you've had a chance to see it, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. If you're one of those jackholes who used a bot to get the bear, and it's a bear, then how dare you? And go check out A24's commercial for the bear. It is delightful. Matt, let's go ahead then and move on, and let's spend a few minutes talking about our 5 favorite films of 2019.
Oh boy.
So far.
You need a ride, darling? How about a smile for me, huh?
A smile?
Yeah. I'm offering to help you. Least you could do is give me a smile.
How about a handshake? I'm Veers.
People call me the Don.
Wow. Here's a proposition for you. You're going to give me your jacket, your helmet, and your motorcycle, and in return, I'm going to let you keep your hand.
Take it.
What, no smile?
So that was a clip from Captain Marvel, which came out earlier this year. Matt, a film that did not make my top 5, but the fact that it is an honorable mention for me should tell you how underwhelming a year it has been. In fact, I initially intended to open this segment of the show, Matt, simply with this. Okay, it has not been, Matt, an exceptionally strong year this year.
No, it has not.
Now, we have not seen Under the Silver Lake yet.
Nope.
There's a couple films we haven't seen yet.
Right.
but still not great. So why don't you start us off, Matt? What do you think is the fifth best film of 2019 so far?
Yeah, this is a tough list. I was looking, even the things that we were really looking forward to last year because we thought it was going to be a good summer blockbuster season. We have been pretty disappointed across the board. So my number 5 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think it's my honorary superhero film of the year. It was really close between this and Shazam, but I put just Shazam at my 6. But so I want to put Far From Home in there. Listen to the review that came 10 minutes ago.
There you go. Yeah, it didn't make the cut for me. It's probably my 6 or 7. I'm with you. Shazam, actually, probably 7 or 8. My number 5 then is just on the sheer, I won't get too much into it because I'm pretty sure it's going to be higher up in your list, but the sheer magnitude of this film and what they're able to pull off after all these years, building these plot lines, tying them all together. My number 5 is Avengers Endgame. I had to give it its due. It is quite an event film, in one of the event films, possibly to end all event films. I mean, what they're able to pull off with this thing and how successful it actually is a marvel in cinematic storytelling. It really is.
A marvel, if you will.
Oh, I didn't even do that. I didn't know. I'm clever.
You are, unintentionally so. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and break the suspense out. I actually didn't put Endgame on my list. It was
really
for me. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen it since, so maybe I should have taken the opportunity to check it out again while it was in theaters. I don't know if it still is. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. I just think I like Spider-Man better.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. So sticking with stuff we just talked about, my number 4 is Midsommar. Again, I think it's the strongest horror film of the year we've seen so far. This is probably going to be the best one we get all year. Although there are some contenders I was reading about and some of the smaller independent ones that we haven't caught up with yet. So we'll have to see. But I thought this was really good. So number 4.
That's a good pick. My number 4 is Olivia Wilde's directorial debut, Booksmart. It is a ton of fun. It's very funny, and it has a smart feminist critique of the, boy party films with an exceptionally strong cast, and it's hilarious at times and very smart. So that's my number 4, Booksmart.
Yeah. So my number 3 is Gaspar Noé's Climax, a very really tough, odd film. But for some reason, maybe one of his more watchable films. And I think there are some scenes in that have really stuck with me. And I really enjoyed it. And even that opening dance number, I've watched that on YouTube many times because it's quite well done. And it's even more amazing to find out that almost every part of this, even down to the actual choreography, was done on set. Like they didn't even come knowing what they were going to do, and they kind of made it up on the fly.
Yeah, that is impressive. I went back and forth on that. I really did. I don't know if I'm just getting older, but the thing is so damn dark. I don't know if I could do it.
It is.
So it didn't make the cut for me. My number 3 is a film I gave the same grade to, which is Jordan Peele's Us. I think maybe it's a glorified Twilight Zone episode and it runs a little long, but I love the themes. I love what he's trying to say. I love the way it's shot. It's a really fascinating film to look at as well as to watch and enjoy. Some great performances by Lupita Nyong'o. She is great in this thing. And I was entranced by it. I thought it was fantastic. So it's my number 3.
Yeah, it didn't even make an honorable mention for me.
Wow.
It's a little half baked. The more distance I get with it, I think it could have used a little more gestation time, I think.
Maybe.
All right, so my number 2 is so far been the action spectacle of the summer for me, which is John Wick 3. I absolutely adored this. The opening fight scenes is just absolutely breathless, just how long that just goes through and just how brutal and inventive all of it is. And I tell you, I'm on board for more. I'm really curious to see how this all plays out in John Wick 4. But yeah, I had a great time. John Wick 3 is the action film of the year so far.
That's probably the true statement, but it doesn't belong on your top 5. No, it doesn't. My number 2 is Midsommar, the film we just talked about again. So just go ahead and rewind the old podcast to Rooney, and you can hear what we thought about it. But yeah, so that's my number 2.
All right. Well, my number 1 is Booksmart. It's actually the highest. I think it's the film I gave the highest rating to all year. I think it's the only A I've given out all year. I really enjoyed it. It's a fun film. It's funny. It's real. It's got, great relationships and performances. It's really everything you could want from a film, from a comedy. So yeah, I think it was a pleasant little surprise for me.
I have you as a B+.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. In hindsight, I seem to really liked it a lot more. I don't know if I've given out any A's this year.
I gave it an A-. You gave it a B+.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you have given out. I'm scrolling through the report. I'm very clever. The TFR report card, where I merged TF and then report, so it says TFR report card.
Yeah.
I was very proud of that one. I figured that out. You gave Parabellum an A-.
Okay.
And that might be it. Anyway, I don't know. You can, everybody check out the report card. You can see all of our grades and then links to the shows as well directly right there, so you can dive right into it. And of course, we do the timestamps and each individual page for each show. Okay. My number 1 is the only A I've given out. I've given out some A-, but I've only given out 1 A, Matt. And what is that film?
I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, tell me what it is. I forgot.
Toy Story 4.
Oh, okay.
I was really impressed by this thing, much more than I thought I would be. It is a fitting epilogue to the series, and it introduces some creepiness, which I think this series is well overdue for, particularly with those dummies. Those things really work, and I'm surprised they were able to pull this off. But Toy Story 4 is really, really great. And here's the crazy thing: as I'm going through this list, Matt, I don't know if any one of these films, maybe Midsommar, upon further reflection, may be in my top 10 when the year's over, which makes no sense, right? Actually, it was my number 2.
Right.
But just like I did last year, or was it 2 years ago with Lady Bird, when I said it was a perfect film and ended up being like my number 5?
Yeah. Perfect film.
A boy can change his mind.
He can. Well, very obviously, I thought I gave Booksmart an A, and I only gave it a B+. So there you go.
Originally on my list, I had Toy Story 2 and Midsommar as 1. And as we were talking, I changed it.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
So I clearly am inclined to move things around a bit.
Sure.
Any honorable mentions that we haven't mentioned?
Yeah. So we mentioned Shazam. Fighting with My Family was a lot of fun. Avengers Endgame, Toy Story 4, the documentary the Fire documentary on Netflix. Now, granted, it was not in a theater; it was on Netflix. But it's really fascinating to watch. If you haven't seen that documentary, really should check it out about
it's good.
Doomed Fire Festival. And just because I'm going to put it on there, just because I remember liking it so much, me and nobody else as Alita Battle Angel, because that'll probably be the last time I talk about that film.
I don't know. You can join in with all the incels who are all upset about it, and they're saying it was a much better film than Captain Marvel and deserved all the accolades and money that film got.
I don't know.
Which one would you choose? Captain Marvel or Alita Battle Angel to watch again?
To watch again?
Yeah. Which one would you buy?
Which one would I buy? I guess Captain Marvel, but honestly, this is going to sound terrible. It's really for everything that's going on around Brie Larson, because Brie Larson is not a lot of fun to watch in that film, and I don't know why she's just such dead weight in that film. But everything around it is fun.
And let's be clear, we're big Brie Larson fans.
We are, yeah.
This show has pushed like short-term 12 since it came out. So we are huge Brie Larson fans. When she was on Community, Room, I think she's a fantastic actress. But you're right. Oh, yeah. That film, I don't know if it doesn't know what to do with her talents, or she's just not the role that's good for her. I mean, there's some people who just don't, like Wahlberg, right? Mark Wahlberg desperately needs a good director who can focus him, because if you for every Boogie Nights you get like a Happening, right, where the director doesn't know what to do with
its terribleness.
So yeah.
Yeah, I would probably buy Captain Marvel. And here's the thing. She wasn't much better in Endgame either. I mean, really, she wasn't. Even though she was barely in it, she wasn't that much better. So I'm hoping that she'll get better. But I would buy Captain Marvel, but then I would secretly watch Alita Battle Angel, as my guilty pleasure.
Fair enough. Honorable mentions, I had High Flying Bird, Soderbergh's film on Netflix. She's got another one coming out. I don't know where it is. I thought it was supposed to come out by now, but it hasn't hit yet. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. For all its cheesiness, man, those monsters know how to duke it out. It nails what it's supposed to do. Parabellum I have on here, Far From Home. The Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron film, Long Shot, is actually pretty funny and sweet. I had Shazam, Climax, Captain Marvel, and I had to put it on there, though I know it's a lie. Glass.
It is a big lie. So I'm going to call it now. I think if we're doing a top 10, I can see 3 of these being in the bottom 10, bottom 5.
Yeah.
I can see 3 of these being in the bottom 5.
Could be. All right. Coming up next week on the Big Shoe. We doing Stuber? Are we going to do Stuber?
I really don't want to. I was desperately trying to find something else to watch, but there's not really anything.
Is The Farewell playing around you?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, a lot of the smaller films that I am interested in seeing are not playing around me, and that's really a shame.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, brah. I'm going to start using that unironically. What's up, brah?
What's up, brah? I mean, like The Art of Self-Defense comes out, which I'm curious to see, and not playing anywhere, so it's unfortunate.
Sorry, brah.
So it's either Stuber or Crawl. I mean...
Oh, is that that's the Alexander Asia alligator movie, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Oh, then we're doing that.
Okay.
I love me some Asia, man. I love these horror films. So I don't remember caring for Mirrors. I wonder if I need to watch that again at some point. Like, because I have nothing else to watch. But yeah, no. Killer sharks in a hurricane, especially when we got a big storm coming through here.
Killer alligators in a hurricane.
Killer alligators. What did I say? Sharks?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an alligator. Or is it a crocodile? It's an alligator, isn't it?
It's an alligator, yeah.
All right. I wonder if it's even playing around me, though. I don't know.
No?
It is. We're in.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what else is playing here? Oh, it's down to one. It's only down to one screening this weekend. Last Black Man in San Francisco. It's another A24 film.
Definitely not playing anywhere near me.
Maybe I'll try and go if I have softball this week.
But we're watching that. So I guess we're watching Crawl and Under the Silver Lake. Is what we're watching.
Sir, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Eventually, you will find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. I'll read it on air no matter how awesome it is. And, of course, you can find everything about us at thefirstrun.com. Matt, why don't we go ahead and take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
See? I told you! Now capture him! Which one? I don't care which one! Get them both!
That man's an imposter. That man is the imposter.
There can't be two Spider-Men.